Hello, astrology lovers, and welcome to Astrology Hub TV. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Amanda Walsh, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub, and I am so excited about today's episode with Meru Matu. So it's amazing. Hold on to your seats. It's going to be an incredible broadcast today. Astrology Hub TV is a weekly show dedicated to helping you explore your connection to the cosmos and how cultivating this connection can help you live a more empowered, fulfilling, and vibrant life. We're here normally on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. Today is an exception to that, but normally we're here on Thursdays at 4 p.m., 7 Eastern. And next week, we will be live with evolutionary astrologer Sol Johansson, and that will be Thursday at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. If you'd like to receive a Facebook alert, a Facebook Messenger every time we go live, you can do so by signing up for live alerts. The link for this is in the chat and also above this video. All right, so today we are here with creator of Sun Soul Astrology, Meru Matu. And today she's talking about quantum astrology and Starseed Lineage. And she's also making her Astrology Hub debut today. And on today's episodes, you're going to learn how astrology relates to quantum physics, the holographic universe, the matrix, Starseed Locations, and the Starseed Story. So today's episode is for you if you're a free thinker who thinks outside of the box or who doesn't actually believe in a box at all. If you know you're not necessarily from here, from this planet, if you realize that you have a galactic origin. So we're going to be going way out there today. And if you resonate with any of that, then this episode is definitely for you. Before we dive in, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our guest today. Meru was nominated for Astrology Hub TV by one of our community members, Ellen. Thank you so much for the recommendation. And when I looked her up and watched some of her videos, I was totally blown away. She is authentic, she's fresh, she is totally soul-based and offering a very different perspective on astrology and on our connection to the universe. So I was very, very, very excited to be able to feature her and her work. She is the owner and creator of Sun Soul Astrology on YouTube, sunsoul.tv, a subscription-based daily astrology channel, and Pimp My Matrix clothing line. Meru is a full soul transfer walk-in who has spent the last 14 years studying quantum physics, which brought her to astrology and the creation of her alternative style of bringing the planetary transits into a real-life application of living a multi-dimensional life. She is a former Billboard Top 200 charting recording artist whose life in the mainstream entertainment world pushed her to recreate a life and perception that is outside the matrix of conventional 3D life. The journey that Meru is on is to inspire people to raise their vibration and know the truth of their astrology chart and why it is so important to relate the above as if it is below and how to utilize planet power to transform into a higher state of consciousness and awareness. All right, so this is so exciting and I can't wait to dive in and hear from you, Meru. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to share with your tribe. I really respect Astrology Hub and everything you're doing, so it's definitely an honor. Thank you so much.
All right. Very cool. All right. So wanted to ask you a question, all of you out there. We just had a solar eclipse yesterday. Wanting to hear from you. Have you felt an energy shift today? We were talking before the call and there was three of us on the call before. Stephanie was on as well, helping us get ready for this. We were talking about how today it's felt like this, like a light switch has changed. Like we're just in a different energy. So are you feeling that? And if so, what does the new energy feel like? And I will go in and look at your responses in a little bit and we can talk about it later. But Meru, let's dive into your topics here. Can we start with quantum physics?
Absolutely. Yes, quantum physics is such an amazing tool to understanding self and relationship to the universe and how it all comes together and blends into astrology. It's kind of tied the knot together for me and understanding how everything relates, because we know that energy is what comprises everything, and that energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transformed, changed into another application, another modality, another form. All of the encompassing aspects of energy is an end-all be-all, that it exists and that it continues to exist. But the thing about energy is that it's information. And this information is what we are perceiving as these frequencies and vibrations. And this is so important to know, because whenever we understand the aspect of quantum physics, the most groundbreaking and talked about experiment is the Double-Slit Experiment. If any of you out there have actually heard of it, and if you haven't, I would highly suggest taking a look into it, because it's phenomenal. It's where they use the experiment of putting two slits on a board and shooting particles through these slits. And it shows us that when there's someone or something observing the action, that particles do act like matter. But when you remove the observer, they act like waves. And they've done this experiment for about 50 years in so many different ways. And they've realized that, per se, if you measure, if you take an observer, a mechanical observer, and you look at where these slits are going through, or where the particles are going through the slits, you are going to get, only by observing this information, the double slit. If you actually remove that observation, but you still record it, okay? Say you've recorded it, but you remove that information and you only look at the outcome, they act like waves again. So this is what's so important about quantum physics, is that we are in a state of quantum fluctuation. We have all possibilities existing at once, and these are the waves of energy that are going throughout the universe. And we actually collapse the wave whenever we observe it, and we make it real within our reality. So there is no limitations on this experience of life or the human condition. It's not objective, it's subjective. So then we look deeper into what physics is telling us in quantum physics, theoretical physics, and we see that matter is really just energy waves vibrating at different rates to look like something's physical. So we actually get tricked a lot by what we see outside of ourselves. We don't realize that the statement, as above, so below, is actually the statement of as within, so without. So I found it just so interesting and so enlightening. My favorite thing to do has always been to audit physics classes from Harvard and Stanford. Stanford is where my favorite physicist, Leonard Susskind, is from. He studied black holes to the point of figuring out that this is a holographic universe, and it's because of our galactic center, which is a supermassive black hole located at 26 and 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So any of you out there who have your planets conjuncting here, North Node, South Node, any of that, you're epic. You're coming from the place in which is a 2D film strip, literally, with information. And you can think of it as if it's a computer hub. It's projecting out pixelated data. And at the same time, it's actually sucking in protons and neutrons. And so there's a deleting system to this, just like we delete stuff off of our hard drive. We are doing that on a universal perspective and on an individual perspective, but it shoots out this pixelated data and it creates a 3D projection. That's all of the planets and the stars within the Milky Way, and that is us. So this information that's floating out there, it's hitting us in a certain way. And we first collapse this wave and we perceive it from the inside. They've even found that our brains themselves are holographic projectors. So the supermassive black hole is almost like the laser beam that's shooting through us. Our brains holographically are interpreting it, and they've found that light comes into our eyes, yes, but we are projecting the images externally. It's not how we were taught originally, that everything is coming into our eyes, bouncing off our corneas, being, interpreted by the brain, and then we see. It's different. So how this all ties together in relationship to our lives is that we project before we perceive, and our perceptions are based off of our judgments. So whenever we realize that this is an internal experience and we're meant to go with this quantum fluctuation, we're meant to flow into all possibilities existing at once. We're not meant to basically feel victimized by being incarnated by our life circumstances, not having money, not having the right job, not having the right friends, not having the right relationship. And especially at this time, all of these questions are heavily on the board. And like you said, a switch got flipped yesterday. And if you think about it, this is what quantum physics shows us, is that this information, it's binary code. It's sequences of ones and zeros. And that's what our DNA sequence is actually comprised of, the exact same thing. But it's not just our DNA. It is written into the fabric of the entire universe. They found it written into the air, the trees, the plants, the birds, everything. So we see as if this wave is translating the holographic message. So how open you are, how expansive you are, how unlimited you are, allows you to perceive more of this quantum information that's coming directly from the center of our universe and allowing us this ascension process that's going on. But we have to break free of what we were originally taught with material physics, that everything is material.
Yeah. Okay. Question for you.
Absolutely.
How does this, first of all, what do you mean by ascension? Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, this is such a good question because it is such a large topic. Because we know about evolution. We know that each generation and each 100th monkey effect basically has a evolutionary expansion to it. We're learning this information. This is an actual great question that's going to require a little bit of background.
Okay. I think it's really important because the word gets used and different people mean it in different ways. So I'd love to hear how you use that word.
This is so true. Now, information, correct? It's floating out there and we're receiving it. We do this from the time that we are in the womb, how our mother is perceiving the world around us. So we're coming in with the information that has been accumulated from generations before our parents. We come in with this dance and we're starting off, okay? We're starting off with recording our environment and how we see everybody acting and reacting within it up until about age 7. And then after that, we're in a playback loop of mimicking everything that we've learned. We have default settings now. So whenever we are talking about ascension, it is when our own evolution transforms into the quantum perspective where we grasp the concept of multiple dimensions and we start to move through those. Because here's the thing, at the center of the universe is a 2D film strip. Holographic projections are third dimensional. That's why we're here. But whenever we start to raise up into the fourth and the fifth dimension of ascending, moving up the ladder, and this gets even more interesting because we're talking about consciousness. And consciousness is also one of those terms that's almost unidentifiable, just like ascension. Mm-hmm. But we have the consciousness of wakefulness and being involved in this situation right here. We're conscious that we're tuned in and we're talking about this subject. But there's a consciousness that is the universe, that is self-aware, that's a sentient being of its own, that is projecting out this information. Now, inside of us versus a holographic projection, if we were to project a hologram, that's three-dimensional, but it doesn't have the internal components that we do. It doesn't have all of this inner physicality. And that to me is the fourth dimension. So I think that there's been a lot of misunderstanding about us being third dimensional from birth. We've never been third dimensional, but we are in a full immersion situation that is the best virtual reality that we can even conceive of. But we're inside of the hologram. So the way that we see it is very different. Ascension is the realization that you are in this simulated, energetic, information-based soup of existence. And whenever you become aware of that and you rise up to the frequency of what many call creator source or God or your higher self, whenever you step into the power of your soul, you step into a new dimension. And that to me is ascension, because you are climbing this ladder of reaching back to your originating spot, which is singularity. That's what the black hole is. Whenever any planets transit over the black hole, for all of you astrologers out there, aspiring astrologers, planets transiting over the black hole move outside of time and space themselves. So that's what's so important about the galactic convergence that happened in 88, 89, whenever Saturn went over the galactic center, and just happened again. So this is a shift in consciousness that has to do with a rewrite of our physicality, of Capricorn, of Saturn, of government, of structure, of everything. So ascension is where evolution turns into soul ignited power in a multidimensional, unconditional, limitless experience.
Wow, that was brilliant. Okay, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So I kind of cut you off there for a second. So you're talking about all this information that's out there and available to us, and I'm guessing or assuming that then is translated by our planetary arrangement within us helps us to interpret or translate that information, and that's where the unique perspective might come in, because it's almost like bouncing off the planetary placement within us. And so then our perspective, our judgment is based on that. Is that kind of accurate?
It is kind of accurate. So how that really translates into it is we go deeper, we go farther, we go into the oldest texts that we have available to us. And we see what were the ancients telling us? What clues did we leave for ourselves? Because those ancients were known as the star people, as the cloud people. Every reference has to do with them coming from outside and coming into the earth sphere. So my favorite is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. They're dated at 36,000 years. They're alchemically processed tablets to the point where they're emerald and they can't be changed again. But these tablets tell us that Thoth from ancient Egypt was actually not just the creator of all knowledge and alchemy, but he was the creator of astrology. And in the chart, he's represented by Mercury. So he was also known as Hermes. He was known as Quetzalcoatl from the Mayans. He was known as Krishna, as Buddha, as Jesus, as Ningshita. He's a reincarnating master. And he's consistently left us with a heap of information about our genetic engineered story. And he is one of our major genetic engineers and our DNA sequence. This is where our Starseed story begins, because you can call them a master geneticist race, and they're also called the master builders. They're the Anunnaki. A lot of people believe that they come from the planet Nibiru, and Nibiru is noted also as Planet X, but it has what we believe to be about a 3,600 year elliptical around our sun. And its elliptical is so large that it actually exits the Milky Way and comes back in. Now, we've yet to fully validate all of that information, but archaeologically, we do show evidence of this type of planetary body passing us every so often. And these genetic engineers came to Earth in order to mine gold. A lot of it was so that they could use it for their own immortal lives, and also their atmosphere needs a form of gold to keep their atmosphere structure solid. And also they turn it into monoatomic gold, which heals the telomeres of the DNA. Now, why this is important is because they created a race of beings to mine that gold for them, which is us. Originally, whenever they genetically created us, we didn't have the ability to recreate, procreate, and we also didn't have consciousness, which they have. So Thoth, who was Nangshita at that time, took over the genetic engineering program and encoded us with his own DNA and sequenced this DNA to activate at certain times. This is where the Mayan long count calendar comes in, and the 9 galactic tones. And each tone was a representation of how fast consciousness would evolve. And now we're past the end. So consciousness is doubling upon itself as if it's the Fibonacci sequence. It's the golden ratio. It looks back on itself and it doubles. So it's doubling at a rate of every 28 days. So why is consciousness spreading like wildfire? It's because it is looking back on itself and doubling every 28 days. So we are literally moving through time and space in such a way that is unbelievable. So being the creator of our genetic code, being the creator of astrology, he programmed our code to unlock with our astrology. So what system, what hard drive, what program are you running? How is your physicality meant to blend with the energies of the planets? It's all in your chart. There's no mistake about what time, what location you came in here. So this is all you interacting with a part of your internal self, again, because nothing is external. Everything is first being perceived from within, and then we are seeing it as a projection externally. So whenever the planets come around and they start to activate your planets, you are literally pushed into an ascension process. It unlocks your dormant DNA. That's what eclipses do. That's what solar flares do. We just had both. So the dormant DNA that's been offline for us previous to yesterday is now fully accessible. And knowing that these quantum possibilities exist. Okay, but you have to be able to perceive of these things. If you're so focused on the mundane and the physical and the nitty-gritty of everything, and you don't open up to this type of information that right now, okay, science evolves upon itself. Everything evolves upon itself. But right now, this is what's been proven, okay? That's not to say it's the end all be all, or we're not going to go past this, but this is proof. There's no question about this right now, about the nature of our reality and the drastic difference between what we've been told. So science and creator source, they hold hands now. And alchemy is magic. Magic is alchemy. But it's all based off of our own ability to understand the nature of energy.
Okay, so how do we, when you say you have to be open to the possibilities, how do people do that?
This is a great question as well.
Thanks.
Well, like you were saying, this episode is for those who are outside the box and or don't even acknowledge that there's a box that's been created. It's important to really know that our brain is so important in all of this. I really educate highly on connecting the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. This is actually what Pluto speaks about in the chart, and specifically Pluto retrograde. Okay. It talks about knowing that there's an inner illumination of your soul, your light being, and that it needs to be birthed into such a dynamic expression that it comes into unity with itself. And that unity is called superconsciousness. This is a work of Pluto, but it is the unification of the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. And it's also the unification of the masculine and the feminine, the light and the dark, where you bridge the gap between. So you're not only logical, you're not only emotional, you actually go through the regeneration process that Pluto and Scorpio talk about. You go from just being able to see things from the reptilian mind, basically, lower dimensional scorpion. Then you can transition into an eagle that sees things from a bird's eye perspective. And then you can go through the phoenix rising from the ashes. And this is the point, is that to be a phoenix who rises from the ashes, all concepts have to be destroyed. All foundations have to be destroyed. That's why Pluto transforms entire structures and destroys foundations in order for something new to be built. So the way that you can conceive of this and open up your boundaries is by knowing that your brain operates in beta, theta, alpha, epsilon, delta. And this whole energy story is not only known to quantum physicists, it's known to, let's say, the they. I love to call them they. Everybody calls them they, but it's them, you know who they are. The controlling factors of this world who use alchemy, who use energy as a way to create certain frequencies and vibrations within your brain. It's all entrainment. So if we realize that whenever we are born from 0 to 7, we're in beta. So we're recording. And then after that, we're in alpha. So that's when we're playing back. And if we are not putting ourselves into a theta brain state, we're not able to basically let go of those past programs. It could take lifetimes. But with what we know now, what we have to do is basically reconnect both sides of the brain, and we bust free of these boxes that have told us that this is only material. You can only do X, Y, and Z. Because, a lot of my clients, when I'm talking to them about the 6th house and about daily routines, it's like this automatic thought comes into their head, like, I have the worst daily routine because I don't wake up at 5 in the morning. I don't go to the gym every day. Like, I don't do this and that. And it's like, but who said that's what a daily routine is about? Right? So we automatically go default setting. Turn off the lights in your room, walk to your bed. What's your thought? Are you worried about everything that's going to hurt you, where you're going to stub your toe, or you're going to trip and fall, or you're going to break your face, Or do you have the confidence to know that you are guided? Okay, so this is how you break free and come into this place of knowing that it exists. To conceive, you have to deprogram the things that told you that all of what I'm talking about wasn't previously possible.
Okay. And what do you see the role of studying? How do you see the role of studying astrology, understanding your astrology chart? How do you see that play into opening up? Because you said something earlier about it unlocking the ability for us to connect in with the frequencies. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is a interesting topic because we, from birth, always think that everybody else is the same way that we are. We don't realize, okay, this is what I see the most, is when people have so many indications of being psychic AF, is what I call it. And they don't really feel that way so much because they're waiting for something like in the movies to kick in and validate that they are psychic AF. But whenever you ask a person, okay, so you've known how every situation is going to work out. Yeah. Okay. So why are you questioning yourself? But we tend to do this and we think that we're the same as everybody else. So we don't realize, just as my biggest aha moment with all of it was when I realized what Mercury conjunct Sun means. And I have that for myself. I think about a lot. I always thought about a lot. I've since been able to master the walking meditation so that I'm not just over processed and scattered. Because once I knew that Sun conjuncting Mercury meant that my mind was going to basically spiral out of control unless I learned how to control it, shut it down, turn it off. And that's what superconsciousness does. When you connect the left and right hemisphere of the brain, the mental mind shuts up. And it's the most amazing part. Whenever you have the validation in your chart that you are super psychic or that you are gifted and talented, creative, these limitations that you've put on yourself that were false get removed. I mean, you can see that somebody's going to be so artistically creative and they've never even picked up a paintbrush to paint. So you let them know about this aspect. This is here. This is you. This is what you should definitely try out. It's an innate talent. They pick up this brush and they go for it, and they're the next Picasso. So validation about who you really are, because we have been just so trained to wait for everybody else to tell us who we are. And we don't have to. It's in our astrology, but at the same time, astrology is both very constructive and it's also very deconstructive in some senses, because the filter that you're processing this information through, it's limited to your own perceptions. So each astrologer that interprets a chart is reading through their filter. So it's like Instagram filters. There's such a good representation of this, right? We have the filter that makes us look super like, you got Sun conjunct Venus. You have a freaking awesome filter, okay?
Thank you.
It's true. You got like the bomb one, the upgraded version that you have to pay for every month.
Oh, that's funny.
With the rest of it, it's you're really seeing through this person's filter. And we're all basically being incepted by seeds. And we have to be very discerning about all of the information that comes to us. And we've forgotten a lot about discernment, because if we were using our discernment, we would trust ourselves so much more. It's there for a reason, and it's different than judgments. Judgments are snap default setting in action. But your discernment is whenever you really tune in and say, is this working for me or does this not? Like, you know, it sounds nice, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't work for me. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. And I want to ask you about the Matrix next, but can you answer this one too?
Yeah.
So we're talking about like basically realizing there's no box, that we've put ourselves in boxes, whether it's who we think we are, how we're supposed to act, what we're supposed to do in our routine, day to day, whatever it is, that there really is no box. How is life experienced from that perspective? Like, why would we want to do that?
Extra good question. Well, okay, the movie The Matrix. Let's start there. In the movie The Matrix, there is the group who has woken up outside of the Matrix. And they grab Neo, he wakes up in a pod, and it's like, ew. He's in a sticky, ooey gooey pod. And there's one of the team members who decides that he doesn't want to be outside of the Matrix anymore. He wants to go back in. So he actually attacks the team. And his whole thing is just erase my memory about the Matrix. Make me rich, make me famous. And this imaginary state tastes so good, right? So whenever you do wake up to the fact that this is holographic, the fact that this is a simulation, in the Emerald Tablets, Thoth refers to this as a simulation. And so this is not new, but this is being remembered by us now. And whenever we remember this information, we have to take responsibility. We have to go with the integrity and the wisdom and the discipline that Saturn teaches us in astrology. If we're not doing that, we are basically able to give over power to everybody and everything else. And that removes a lot of responsibility from ourselves. And for a lot of people, that's very comfortable for them. So for all of those out there who are responsibility junkies, who are determination fiends, and who are conquering lions, you know, the ones that just really understand that they're here for a specific purpose, for a reason. They didn't just accidentally wind up here. Too much information to say that, no, we didn't evolve from microbes. We're much more intentional, much more purposeful than all of that. And that's where the encouragement to wake up from the mundane comes into effect. And we realize, like in the movie The Matrix, the Neo and the spoon, if any of you out there remember the scene whenever the kid has the spoon and he's telling Neo to bend it with his mind. And it's the trick is there is no spoon. The trick is right now there is no computer in front of me. I am yourself having a conversation with myself. We are all literally fractaled energy from the same source. And just like whenever you do turn on a light switch, there's an energy current, just like the Big Bang. It just splinters outwards and feeds light. And we are our internal perceptions. I'm perceiving you before I am realizing you. And this is coming from somewhere outside of myself, outside of yourself, because we're in this matrix system. And when we understand that there's levels and dimensions to all of this, our ultimate higher spirit is outside of the matrix. We are a immortal consciousness that's part of this sentient living energy that flows throughout all, inside and outside. And it's projecting itself here in order to experience something different, something that seems physical, something that makes us be able to taste and be able to feel emotions. It's nice to think about ascending into light bodies and androgynous beings, and that's amazing, but you can't touch, right? It's different. You energy blend, but it's still different. You don't have the same sensations, the same experiences. You can't live out linear time when there is no time. It's quite unique.
All right. Brilliant, Meru. Let's talk about Starseed Locations.
Okay. Let's talk about it. Well, Starseed Locations, I'm sure all of your viewers know about starseeds, and
maybe don't make that assumption.
Okay.
Yeah.
So starseeds are the beings that are here who have originated from different locations throughout the Milky Way galaxy and even beyond, from the Andromeda galaxy. Star races such as the Pleiadians, the Sirians, those from Vega, the Arcturians, those from Cygnus, the list goes on, the Zetas, the little grays, right? All of these star races have basically come together in a galactic experience to blend DNAs. So what do you do when you put this many billions of people on a planet who are all mixed up in their cosmic genetic code? We know that, well, we don't all know. We come from a long line of intergalactic wars, basically. The Syrian and the Orion Wars. We know that our asteroid belt is the exploded remnants of a planet called Maldek. And this happened during the time whenever these wars were going on. It's also a huge reason why life no longer inhabits on Mars. This explosion, this is why there's so many craters on one side of Mars, is because it darn near blew it away. It damaged its atmosphere quite considerably, and we actually have scientific explorational proof that shows us that there was a nuke that went off on the surface of Mars and destroyed the rest of the atmosphere. So we are the surviving remnants of those who are from Maldek and those who are from Mars. But that's not where our story ends or begins. It keeps on going. So now there's a lot of work that needs to be done in healing these wounds. And we see it playing out here in the everyday life story of the government and the system and how everything is conspiring, I guess you would say, to control us, to control the population, to control the mindset. And these starseed races are beings that have chosen to incarnate with a specific signature, with a specific knowing. None of us are originally native to Earth. Earth has so many different natural experiences on it that Earth will continue to go on, but the species on Earth has a lot of opportunity to get knocked out a lot. We have a lot of danger going on around us, but so much beauty. And we come from these places to heal the collective. And we're at a processional change of the equinox. In the astrology chart, you can definitely tell whenever people were incarnated during the time of Atlantis. Uranus retrograde is a huge indication of that. But whenever you put Uranus retrograde and Saturn retrograde together, you can also see that the person was there at the fall of Atlantis. And they were attempting to save the situation at hand. So when you've incarnated again here now, we're going through the same thing. We have reached a pinnacle of scientific exploration and advancement. We're starting to do our own genetic manipulations. We're starting to create AI technology. And we're going down the same road that we've already repeated. So these star races have incarnated again to correct the situation again, to evolve us further than we made it the last time or the time before that or the time before that, because this is what our archaeological records show us, is that we've gone through multiple mass extinctions and we've had to do it again. So hopefully we can get it right this time. But in the astrology chart, you can actually see what planetary bodies you come from. And one thing that I want to note, because Pleiadians are the most talked about, I would say they're the most popular as far as conversation go. But in doing hundreds and hundreds of starseed DNA readings, they are the least prevalent. There's the least amount of Pleiadians here, which I find very interesting. I was super surprised to realize that. And it's such a freeing experience to know that your life experience here on Earth has completely been colored by your previous incarnations in different star systems. And there is a logical explanation to why you have always felt so weird, so non-human, so like a lot of starseeds, they literally know when they look at the sky that that's where they come from. They've never really felt truly at home here on Earth. And whenever they've opened up to share with their friends, family, community, it's been a really interesting block on communication because they're attuned to something so very different. And it's not the human story. It's not the 3D process. So a lot of them have felt recluse and just always looking for their soul tribe. And no matter where they go, they just don't feel at home. And we want to know, we have these memories, this Akashic DNA. This is what this information is. You know, just to go back to one thing for a second, our brains, when they did studies with mice, no matter what part of the brain they removed, they couldn't remove the memories. These mice would still do these complicated maze experiences that they had learned prior to having the surgical procedures that remove parts of their brain. And sometimes they removed the entire brain. Life still went on. The memory still went on. And I find that really fascinating because that is our Akashic DNA. It's not inside of our brain. It's inside of our cellular makeup that connects. It's energy. Okay, so once again, it can never be destroyed. So it carries on with us from lifetime to lifetime. And the more that we trust ourselves, the more that we believe in these messages, however they interpret for you, sometimes we hear, sometimes we feel, sometimes we just have visions or dreams. We have to know that this is really real. So a lot of people talk about George Lucas as being an actual insider, part of the secret space program, and knowing the true Orion Syrian war stories. And that's exactly it. But it's the Force. We're all equipped with the Force. And it's the same. Consciousness is a force of energy that you, by your own free will, get to choose how you want to use it. So yes, our destiny is very predetermined. It's in our astrology. We can see that. But our reactions, our responses, how, if we operate through just intentions or if we actually go the extra mile and go through integrity. Because, right, Darth Vader, when he was Anakin Kane, he had some pretty good intentions to protect his family. But in the process, he turned into Darth Vader, into the dark side. But he was a Jedi who used the light. So it's interesting how the truth has been told to us by way of movies like Star Wars and like The Matrix, but they've been set up for us to think that they are fantasy and sci-fi, when our actual galactic origins, our Starseed lineage, show us that this is real. This is really, really real. And now we're starting to find all of the astronomical proof behind it. There's a planet called Iapetus. Not a planet. It's so hard to explain what it really is, but it's known to be one of Saturn's moons. And it looks exactly like the Death Star, like no joke. And it has a 20-mile high wall. And it's so funny that we find it now. Like, it's got a wall. They did it. But it was actually, they've done a lot of remote viewing on it. Plus, they've done a lot of bypasses to take pictures. And what they've discovered is that someone like Elon Musk or Richard Branson basically created this and put it into orbit in order to be a space retreat, a holistic space retreat of sorts. And this is where we've been in our ancient past, right? We've gained technological advancements to go and vacation on these places and experience different things. So it's not so surprising that we would have Starseed origins. And I am one of only a few in the world that do these Starseed readings. The way that I created to do it is very much based off of the Virgo energy I pull. I need facts, I need proof, I need to be able to really show you versus the unconfirmed wishful thinking. And it's not to take anything away from channeling. That's how I produce so much content, is by being available to receive this information that Nikola Tesla talked about. Right? Nikola Tesla talked about the information basically existing within the air. And as long as you're just tuned into a frequency, which is actually how we created the radio and radio waves, when you're tuned into the frequency, you are reading this cosmic message that's going out and being transmitted. So when you're a starseed who's from Arcturus or the Pleiades, wherever you might be from, if you tune into the frequencies, if you ask to be in tune, right? We have to ask to be in tune. We have to give permission, because this is free will. So nobody can intrude on your free will. If you want to connect with your starseed origins, one, definitely know where you're from. And most people are correct. I do want to say this. At the beginning of every reading that I do, I ask them, have you meditated on where you're from? Where do you think you're from? And they are almost always, I would say they're 98% correct, based off their intuitions. And this is a huge validation that is coming from both sides. But it's funny, right? We have to go and get our driver's license in order to drive. And for me, Starseed lineage and DNA, to know where you're from, is your license to cosmically ill and pimp your matrix. So that's where Pimp My Matrix comes into the aspect, is because we put all of this into this, how do we put it all into one cohesive kind of idea? How do we put this all into a blend? How do we get it into a unified form? And it's to realize that you have a soul that shines, and this is your soul bling. You are in a matrix that is personal and unique to only you. There's no one else out there who thinks like you or sees like you or perceives like you. You are in control of your slice of the matrix. And being in control of your slice of the matrix means that you want to bling it out with your soul bling. And whenever you come into a shared space with others, if they're not, blinging out your matrix, you might want to reconsider the situation, because you don't want like a hoopty matrix. You want a really pimped out soul blinging experience. And this is part of realizing that the second house of the chart This talks about going into a frequency harmonic with your surroundings. And if you're out of a vibrational phase, if you're not, okay, I play a country song, you play a rap song, and OMG. Okay, this is just like chaos being back and forth. But if we turn one of those off and we're just focused on that, then everything is in harmony, okay? Whenever we come into people's space and we feel that energy just start bouncing off of them and bouncing off of us and it's not working, we need to be strong enough to say, okay, I understand the situation for what it is. This is not pimping my matrix. And so I'm going to go ahead and bling on. I'm going to pimp on.
Okay, I absolutely love you. I just have to say that. You're so amazing. This information is incredible. And I love, there's been tons of amazing questions from the audience. We have like 9 minutes left. I think this conversation could go on forever.
It really could.
Which is great. But I want to ask a few questions from the audience because I think that it might be helpful. So is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So one of the questions is, are all humans starseeds?
Yes, they are. Okay. Because we come from let me actually be very specific about this. There's 22 specific starseed races that we are a genetic blend of. And no human is native to Earth itself. So with that being said, we are all from somewhere else. But are you a soul that has an affinity of connection to your origins, which actually is what I say creates your starseed affinity? Okay, because no, we're not all from here. But yes, most definitely, there are only some souls that are going to connect, that are going to expand upon this. I hope that answers your question, because not everybody is aware of it. And if it's out of your awareness perspective, it's not real for you.
Right. Exactly. Okay. And you're probably not listening to this call if that's the case.
Right.
Right. Okay. So how does astrology carry through lifetimes?
This is an actually amazing question. Thank you. If anybody out there has seen the movie Jupiter Ascending, it is a great movie that is actually a play off of the Anunnaki and Inanna, who is also Wonder Woman, just saying. Ishtar, same person. But she reincarnates on Earth and she's cleaning toilets, but actually she owns Earth. Okay, this is in her genetic DNA. And so they want to kill her now. They figured out where she is, and she gets the stamp on her wrist that says she owns the Earth. Exactly. So your astrology is showing you so much that I see. Okay, I do RH negative blood coaching. Okay, and RH negative is O negative, A negative, AB negative.
I have O negative. Yeah.
OMG. Okay, yeah. Me too. This is a whole different style of life. And most of them I see, one, have the Cygnus starseed marking, and two, usually have Pluto in the 12th house, almost always, or the 8th house. Mm. And it sets up life the same. Okay. But our DNA is what programs our blood. Our blood, the soul is in the blood, right? That's blood in the Bible, second most used word other than God. The blood is in the DNA. The soul is in the DNA. The soul carries on. It transfers and transforms. So the draconic chart is your chart for who you were coming into this lifetime before you actually hit the physical form. It's not just your last lifetime, but it's your higher self looking down to create this experience. So you can see in astrology what your ultimate purpose is, what your higher purpose is, what your accumulation of knowledge's purpose is. And you can literally see it in the astrology.
Okay.
And if you know, just one quick thing, your South Node, if it conjuncts the Starseed location, that means your master soul from that location. So you can understand that you do have levels, and there are dimensions to what souls are incarnating here for. And knowing this galactic story is of the utmost importance.
Okay. You talked a lot about proof, and my guess is that the proof is coming from a lot of different sources, but for people who want the more scientific minds, the ones who want like to go down the rabbit hole of the proof that you're talking about, where would you tell them to go?
Well, everything is mathematical. Everything is geometrical. If we look at the charts, 360 degrees, each of the houses, each of the signs comprise 30 degrees. They all make mathematical connections to each other. Nothing is by accident. We all know that. And if you're talking about starseed locations specifically, the proof of that is based off of how close your planets conjunct within a 2-degree orb, meaning distance away from these locations. And these locations are very specific because they're based off of fixed stars. And the thing about fixed stars is that they are fixed. They don't move, for thousands of years. So it's not like you're running around to catch up with this location that moves around the chart so often and makes this readily available. It's very specific. Not everybody, some people have a ton of locations and some people don't. So I would definitely tell them to look at the, language of the universe right now is math and energy. And these two things back up astrology and the proof of everything. But there's always going to be people out there who don't have the capacity to conceive of these things. And that's okay, because it's not for them. And that's what we need to understand, is that is okay. It's not our job to make them believe. It's not our job to force them into an awakening. That's actually counterproductive. The only thing that we need to worry about is ourselves and how we vibrate, harmonize, and discern everything around us.
Brilliant. Okay, Meru, literally, I cannot wait to have you back on this show. I'm wondering from the audience if you would like to see Meru back. I know I would, because I could seriously keep talking to you forever. We have 3 more minutes, so I wanted to just let anybody know how they can go deeper with your work if they want to look you up. You have sunsolastrology.com, right? And then also sunsoul.tv. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. If you would like a reading with me, the Starseed reading, natal, draconic, anything, I do so many different types of interesting readings outside the box of normal astrology. That is sunsoulastrology.com. And if you would like to hear my daily translations, this is what I talk about every day in length, and that is sunsoul.tv. Also, Pimp My Matrix is my clothing line that represents astrological configurations and the whole idea of pimping my matrix, because it's a lifestyle. That is there at sunsoulastrology.com also, or pimpmymatrix.com. And then Instagram, Sunsoul Astrology. And you're welcome to request me personally as a friend on Facebook, Meru Matu. It's pretty easy, MERUMATU, but call me Meru.
Okay.
Because I'm a walk-in, everybody thinks it's like an alien name. So Meru and Matu got to go together, but it's just Meru.
Okay, awesome. All right. And for those of you who want to go deeper and who want to understand this language of astrology more and more, if you're hearing things and you're grasping certain things, she's talking about the 2nd house or the 12th house or the 8th house or Pluto, and you want to know more about your own chart and learn how to become astrologically fluent, we have a free gift that you can download right now. It's called How to Read an Astrology Chart in 7 Easy Steps Without the Confusion and Overwhelm. It's designed to give you the fundamentals. We want to give you the basic fundamental understanding of astrology, of the houses, of the planets, of the placements, so that you can go deeper with people like Meru and really just deeper or wider or farther. I don't know which direction you want to go, but in order to be able to go where she's going, it's incredibly helpful to have the basics underneath you so that you're standing on firm and solid ground, and then you can grow up from there. So if you would like to download that gift, it's available to you now. How to Read a Chart in 7 Easy Steps. The link is in the chat. The link is also above the description, or above this video in the description. So that's available to you now for a limited time. So if you'd like to download it, I highly recommend you do so now. When you do, you'll also be registered for a video series, a mini training that we're going to be releasing at the end of this month that is called Astrology Chart Reading Made Easy. So again, taking you another step deeper into learning astrology. That is also free. It's going to be starting to be released February 27th. There's 3 videos in that series. Donna Woodwell is the senior editor for Astrology Hub, and she is the one who's going to be teaching that mini training series. So your spot will be reserved automatically for that when you download the gift, How to Read a Chart. All right. Meru, you're amazing. You're incredible, wonderful. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us. And it's just been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. And yes, I would love to come back anytime.
Yay. Awesome. Okay, good. So next week we're here live Thursday at 4 Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern with evolutionary astrologer Sol Johansson to talk more about the nodal axis. In this episode, you're going to learn why the nodal axis acts as the red thread of one's life, how planets on the nodal axis colors the life expression, and what the dynamics around the nodal axis can show us. So again, that's next Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. If you would like to receive an alert when that episode is live, you can sign up for live alerts, and then you'll get a Facebook message. It'll pop up on your phone if you have pop-ups on your phone or on your computer, and you'll be able to join us when we go live at that point. All right. Thank you everybody so much for being here today. And thank you for making astrology a part of your life. We'll see you next week.
Bye.